Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. In this video I want to talk about the current state of affairs here on Earth. I want to talk about how we've fallen into what I like to call the land of the bottom feeder, or the fallen state. I want to talk about the wars in the world and just the disconnection that we all harbor between one another. This is just an insane experience, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you live in the ignorance is bliss programming, especially here in the United States, you probably think everything's fine. You probably think everything's honky-dory. Most people are very selfish entities. Don't try to tell me that they're not. This can easily be proven, so I don't need to hear it. And I also don't need to hear any of this wishy-washy, lovey-dovey, new age movement bullshit about how everything happens in this world according to divine will, and that it's just your responsibility to see the good in everything. And I swear to God, you people will inject false positivity into anything. And that's one of the biggest spiritual traps, ladies and gentlemen, and that is one of the reasons why I hate the New Age movement so much. And I've hated it since I learned about it. Ever since I created this channel, I've been talking about New Age poison and how the New Age movement is a bunch of garbage, parasitic energy that you get hoodwinked into thinking is good. You get hoodwinked in layman's terms, because I don't want to fucking rant about this forever, excuse me. You get tricked by it because you think it's something good. It sounds good on paper. Well, it technically doesn't, but to many people it does. And you adopt these principles and you become a spiritual contradiction, a walking contradiction, by adopting these principles within the New Age community. So I don't need to hear it. I swear to God, you guys would inject positivity into the most grotesque aberrations simply as a comfort mechanism for your soul to feel more comfortable here in hell. So I am a Gnostic, and I've talked about that in prior videos. I'm not going to make a huge rant about that in this video, but I will say, ladies and gentlemen, that I don't view this world with the vibe that we're not the vibe, but with the way the world is right now. This is hell, ladies and gentlemen. How can you not see this? Now, within hell here in the material world, which by the way was designed, this giant Garden of Eden that we live in, if you want to call it that, is designed to be a literal paradise where everything that we need is literally taken care of 10,000-fold. You ever hear that Tool song, Right in Two? Did you guys hear that? It sounded like someone almost crashed their vehicle. Haven't you ever heard that song, Right in Two by Tool? Don't these talking monkeys know that Eden has enough to go around? Silly monkeys, give them thumbs, they forge a blade and slice their brother down, or they forge a club and beat their brother down. Excuse me, I can't remember the exact lyric to that, but it is absolutely true. We live in a paradise that has been turned into a hell because of the erection of the Matrix. The Matrix, ladies and gentlemen, is an artificial world that you live in, that you learn to regard as the real world. And it comes with a whole host of garbage living here in the Matrix. You learn to identify with the evil one's thoughts. We've talked about that in prior videos, so I'm not going to rant about it. Watch my older videos if you want to learn about that. You get tricked into being something that is not part of your original blueprint, your divine blueprint. And because of that, you learn to walk in what's the word I'm looking for? You get led astray. You are no longer unique. You are a byproduct of the Matrix, and your programming is the barcode on your ass that proves that you've been taken astray here in the Matrix. So most Gnostics, and there are many groups of Gnostics, many Gnostics don't believe the same things, plural. I've developed my own branch of Gnosticism that revolves largely around certain teachings of Christ. I'm not going to get into that in this video. But the way I look at the world, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we have the ability to know the true living God that is living within us and not this artificial fucking God that everybody seems to worship that allows all this insanity to take place here in this world. Many Gnostics agree that there is an evil entity in this world that is posing as God, and that you have been programmed to worship this entity, thinking that it's God, literally giving your energy away to this entity like an endless stream of finances, spiritual finances, to sustain itself. I hope that makes sense. So to me, based on my experiences with the Christ consciousness energy, I believe that God resides within us, and that we know God through the awakening of the Christ consciousness, which is the rising Kundalini energy, folks. It's really cold out here, so bear with me. Kundalini energy, when it wakes up at the pelvic floor, the sacral bone, the coccyx, the scorpion's tail, as many of the Hispanics, the brujos, refer to it, when the Kundalini energy wakes up at the pelvic floor, the throne of God, or the seat of God, it begins its ascent up the cerebral spinal system, the spinal column, the rod of Thoth, or the rod of Mercury, and as it climbs up the cerebral spinal system, ladies and gentlemen, it wakes up a handful of spiritual vortices or vortexes known as chakras. I call these vortexes pylons, and as this energy rises up the spine, it awakens these churches, and as each of the primary churches of God, which are the chakras that reside in your body, ladies and gentlemen, as they wake up, they begin to emanate or emit a frequency that summons various groups of what are known as the Enochian angels. This can only be experienced. It is very difficult to explain this, and I would need multiple hours to do so, and I'm trying to keep things short and sweet, especially with how cold it is here in Virginia. So first off, let me just say that as this energy wakes up, as these churches wake up, and then the energy gets into the brain and stimulates the 12 apostles of Christ, the 12 cranial nerves, when the Kundalini gets inside of your head, it bridges all duality, and now you can see through what is known as your first eye. Just like Jesus says in your Bible, let's let this truck pass. Christ says that when you see through one eye, you shall see the world properly. That's not the exact scripture, but that's how I translate it myself, because I've experienced Kundalini, I've experienced Christ consciousness, I know what Christ is. But when this energy gets into your head, all of your spiritual filters are activated, and now you can take in energy. You can start to see things properly, ladies and gentlemen. You can see all of the auric fields, the energy fields around everything. These are known as subtle organizing energy fields. You can see and feel them around your body. To a large extent, ladies and gentlemen, knowing God happens through the awakening of your currently shut off energy field. You see, our energy field is like a magnetic system that connects us to the angelic kingdom through the rising of the Kundalini, and our connection to the angelic kingdom tethers us to God, ladies and gentlemen. These angels that get summoned around us from the waking up of the churches within us, the chakras or the pylons, these are like telephone systems that connect us to the various divine energy of God. It's very difficult to explain. So any idiot who wants to try to tell me that Kundalini energy is evil is living in a hippie haze. Got a lot of trucks passing today, folks. Bear with me. Is living in a goddamn hippie haze, where you've been taught to regard Kundalini, the energetic, evolutionary energy of life itself. You've been taught that it's evil. And most of you guys who are saying that it's evil, you've never even fucking experienced it. I hate to tell you. You're deluding. You're in a perpetual state of delusion. Because anyone who's experienced what I've experienced with this energy, ladies and gentlemen, would never regard it as negative, would never regard it as evil. Your lack of understanding is what makes you think that it's evil. All you people with your chakra removal bullshit and just your nonsense, as if you can remove chakras, as if chakras are evil. This is a part of your biophysical spiritual energy. I don't need to hear it. Wake up. It's just insane how easily people are hoodwinked. It's absolutely insane to see how people can be tricked into thinking that things that are good are actually evil. It is one of the most nauseating things to deal with and to witness. And right now there's a smear campaign on the Kundalini energy, which is literally the Christ energy. And there's multiple references to this throughout the Bible about the Kundalini energy, about Christ's connection to the Kundalini energy. So again, you guys, I don't want to get into that. I want to just talk really briefly, and maybe we'll wrap this one up short because I've got sandals on and my toes are freezing. I wanted to just really briefly talk about how this world is hell. Now, before you go on some little bullshit rant and say that, oh, you're so negative, Sacred Serpent, why don't you hear me out? Through the rising of the Kundalini energy, through the awakening of the dormant regions of our brain, our body, our anatomy, you name it, through our consciousness attaining higher states of gnostic evolution, we actually begin to create heaven on earth through our own mind. Heaven is a state of consciousness. It's also a state of bodily enlightenment through the awakening of the dormant chakra churches and the various meridian systems. Your energy field, ladies and gentlemen, which awakens by way of the Kundalini rising, when your energy field, or your subtle organizing energy fields, your Merkaba, all of these things, when they actually are stimulated to the point where you can see them and interact with them. This is done through the rising Kundalini. You create heaven on earth because you're connected to the angels. This gives light to or validity to the scripture, my rod and staff comfort me. What do you think the rod and staff is? It's the Kundalini energy, ladies and gentlemen. Staffs and rods are always, more often than not, depictions of the spine. Well, what moves up the spine and bridges your lower self to your higher self? The Kundalini energy does this. We are in the valley of death, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the underworld. The Kundalini showed me this during my first full-blown experience with it in my early 20s. It showed me that we are navigating through hell, a hell dimension, a piece of hell. What is hell? Hell is a place of disharmony. Hell is a place where wars exist. Hell is a place where bombs are dropped on innocent people and they're blown into smithereens. Hell is a place, ladies and gentlemen, when all of the once pristine food that was full of minerals and life-giving constituents and enzymes, hell is a place where all of that is corrupted by the greedy hands of organizations like the New World Order, which is a consortium of evil that runs the world here, connected to the megabanks, big pharma, etc. Hell is a place where these controllers, if you want to call them that are connected to the archons, pollute all of the water we drink, the water that we bathe in, the food that we eat. Hell is a place where literal megatons of barium, aluminum, strontium, mylar fibers, chaff, radioactive isotopes, scalar waves, I think I said that already, excuse me guys, it's really cold out here, smart dust, nanobots. Hell is a place where all that shit is sprayed above us via the geoengineering high altitude aerosol spray program through the solar radiation management agenda, also known as SAI, or stratospheric aerosol injections. Don't tell me it's not real. I have so many people that when they hear me talk about aerosols, high altitude aerosols, which many people refer to as chemtrails, a lot of people say, oh, what are you, a conspiracy theorist? You're a conspiracy theorist. Oh my goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, David Keith, the spokesperson for the geoengineering programs, has come out in magazines such as, but not limited to, Popular Science, and talked about how they're doing this. What was that famous David Keith quote about how spraying aluminum and all this stuff is basically like, what did he say, freeloading on our grandchildren? There's a public video of him talking about them spraying all the aluminum, especially, and the barium and the strontium into the atmosphere, and he says that we don't really know the effects that this is going to have in the next year, 20 years, but we need to do it, we just need to do it, we just need to. So don't try to tell me that it's a conspiracy. A lot of you guys are just living in your asses. And this is another part of living in hell. When you wake up, ladies and gentlemen, when you truly start to nourish your body, when you get the iodine levels up and the magnesium levels up, and you do a little bit of vitamin E therapy to reverse a lot of the damage that's been done to your body. When you start to get yourself on point, when you start to freeze your thoughts and reclaim a mind of your own, you start to see how the people around you are living dead. That there is a lack of light in the masses. What's also disgusting is not only witnessing this, but seeing how other people defend it. People are doing their best, Sacred Serpent. You know, people are people. What are you going to do? Stop being so judgmental. I will always use judgment because judgment is one of our reasoning faculties. It's part of our reasoning skills. Don't try to lie and tell me you don't judge. You judge things so minutely that you use it to pick what color clothes and what brands of, fashion items you're going to wear. You use judgment for everything. You use judgment to look both ways before you cross the road or you go through the green light. Don't tell me that you don't use judgment. Judgment is what keeps you alive in sticky situations. If you just walk around this world without judgment, just thinking, oh, everything's love, oh my good, you're going to get consumed by this system. You're going to get consumed here. Now, we have all of the resources, all of the technologies, all of the know-how to literally turn this world into a literal paradise in less than 10 years. We have certain green technologies, and I'm not talking about environmental extremism such as, but not limited to, Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. That's environmentalism that's taken to use to control the masses. I'm talking about spiritual technologies, crystal technologies, organite technologies, ladies and gentlemen. We have the ability to literally turn this world into a paradise. We have the ability to clean up all of the pollution in the ocean with things like mushroom technologies, where we can actually use certain mushrooms to eat up all of the pollution. We have technologies, ladies and gentlemen, that can clean up clean up polluted air in very short amounts of time. And in fact, what's crazy, ladies and gentlemen, is that your body, your Merkaba around you, can actually be used to clean the environment. This is a little occult secret that I don't see many people talking about. When I first experienced the awakening or the reawakening or the reanimation of my light body in my early 20s, I remember going outside and looking up at the clouds and actually being able to move them with my mind. And I remember the air becoming vastly pristine simply through the direction of my intention at the atmosphere responding to my intentions, my thoughts. So there's some people out there that know what's up. There's some people out there that know that the human body is an antenna for the divine. When the Kundalini wakes up and when the Merkaba wakes up, you are now in the chariot of God. You become united with the angelic forces. You become united with Christ. You now are able to, like the master magician, Thoth, you can actually manipulate the elements around you simply through your intentions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been reduced beyond zero. And we've been educated and overly intellectualized, if you will, to the point where we've lost our minds in this New World Order gunk. You go to school, you get programmed, you adopt all these weird principles, and through that, you begin to interpret reality in a false way based on the repositioning of your assemblage point. And once you go through the school system long enough, once you get beat down by all the stupid obligations and having to remember all these factoids to pass your tests, once you go through all of this bullshit, by the time you're pretty much 10 years old, your assemblage point is in the position that it's going to get locked into for the rest of your life. And if you don't think that this is an issue, or if you don't think that this is serious, it only means that you've never experienced anything that I'm talking about, and you just scoff at it and think that it's just some joke. This is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of you guys that hear this message, I feel like it hits home, but it doesn't hit home enough to actually cause you to do something with it. And I'm not going to get into that in this video. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. So we talk a lot about food on this channel, and I think that that's an important thing to discuss. We talk a lot about the bastardization of water. I think that's a really important thing to discuss. There's some simple things that humans need, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just drive this home really quick and then we'll start wrapping this up. Human beings require food and they require water. They require air, good quality air. Now, if you read the Zend Avestas, a religious document of antiquity, it goes on to say in the Zend Avestas, I think that's how you pronounce it. It might be a Zend Avesta, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. If you read that particular religious document of antiquity, it goes on to say that there are 3 primary pillars or prerequisites that every single flourishing civilization needs to keep in check and in balance. Otherwise, that civilization will surely crumble and fall based on the lack of one of these 3 pillars. Now, those 3 pillars, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you a chance to guess those. And they are, dun 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 dun, pristine water, pristine food, pristine air. If you take any of those 3 out of alignment, civilizations surely will crumble. Now let's take a look at reality here in the Matrix. And there's a lot more problems that we have other than those 3 pillars being out of alignment. We more often than not don't have the most pristine air, we don't have pristine food, and we sure as hell don't have pristine water. Your water supply, and I highly suggest following one of the links in the description box below, go over to the ewg.org water database and type in your area code to see what's in your water supply. I've provided the link below. More often than not, your water supply is filled with a cocktail of chlorine, chloramines, algicides, cobalts, radioactive constituents, hexafluorosilicic acid, hydrofluorosilicic acid, fluorine compounds, ladies and gentlemen, inorganic calcium, inorganic lime. They've even found plutonium in water supplies that people are drinking. Now, chlorine, ladies and gentlemen, just one component out of many in your tap water that you bathe in and drink in like it's no problem. Just that one compound, chlorine, ladies and gentlemen, can increase your risk of getting cancer and other life-threatening illnesses by over 90%, especially for men. Men, for some reason, react to chlorine a little bit, but not that much more. But men react a little bit more harshly to chlorine exposure. And I believe it was Dr. Mark Serkis's book, Healing with Iodine, where that particular quote came from. Or that statistic, if you will. Chlorine is incredibly toxic. It ruins the microvilli in your system. It destroys the proper communication between gut and brain. It kills your microflora. It completely destroys your gut, even in small amounts. Light exposure to chlorine, especially on a daily basis, will increase your risk of having cancers and different issues, life-threatening problems by over 90%. And again, that's only one component out of many. So don't try to tell me that your water is pristine, especially when you bathe in it, when you shower in it, and most people shower with hot water. Well, what happens when you heat up chlorinated, fluoridated, garbage water? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you do some research, you'll find that when you heat up your tap water to bathe in, the chemical compounds nearly double. This is largely also due to the fact that when you heat up water through those disgusting pipes that the water travels through before it gets to your skin through your shower or through your mouth through your sink, when the water gets heated up, it rubs up against those pipes. And those pipes are disgusting. I've been on job sites with my brother years ago where a plumber cut through a couple of pipes that water traveled through, and the calcium buildup was so profound that this once large pipe about that thick or wide had been reduced down. The hole that the water was traveling through was the size of a pea because of all the calcium and all the buildup, all the inorganic material. That stuff goes into your system, and these are accumulative poisons, ladies and gentlemen. They accumulate over time. They get stuck in your tissues. This is one of the leading causes of human stiffness, if you want to call it that. This is one of the leading causes, ladies and gentlemen, of premature arthritis and joint problems. All of this accumulative crap. And on top of that, the chlorine just makes you an idiot. It just does. When you destroy your gut, you destroy your brain. When you destroy your health, it's much easier to walk around the land of the dead and just accumulate like a sponge. Most of you guys are like sponges that just absorb. You just absorb without thinking. You don't put a filter on your mind before you accept things, pieces of information, and that's a huge problem. And that should be one of your biggest concerns right now, developing a mental filter. The system wants you to not have a filter. It wants you to be a consumer, a mindless idiot. It wants you to be a receptacle for garbage. And don't tell me that that's not true, because it is 100% true. This is one of the leading causes of premature death and illness in people. The lack of having a mental filter will cause you to eat all the crap. It'll cause you to be subjected to all the crap and go along with it. It's just insane. But again, ladies and gentlemen, to get back on track, we don't have pristine water. You don't have pristine water. This is one of the reasons why I'm always talking about water distillation and then restructuring the water. Unfortunately, most filters do not have the strength to reduce as much chemical compounds as water distillation and then water filtration after you've distilled the water. There are some VOCs and some other contaminants that usually get left behind with homemade distillers that you can buy. Excuse me, I can't speak today. So once you distill the water, you get it as close to 0 parts per million, zero total dissolved solids or TDS. You get that water close to being just bare H2O, and then you run it through specific filters to reduce any of what's left over from the distillation process, because some of these gases can actually rise with the rising steam. They're not heavy enough to be left in the boil kettle. Then you put it through a filter to get rid of the other crap. Then you expose it to crystal energy, shungite energy. You can, if you want, add minerals to it. You expose it to moonlight, and then you drink it. You also can vortex it and inject it with oxygen. This is how we build or rebuild water as close as possible to what would be found in nature. If nature wasn't fucked up from all of the acid rain and the human contaminant exposure. I mean, it's amazing what we dump in the oceans and the rivers. The world is in a state of pollution, ladies and gentlemen. The earth is being infected. And it's being infected because we lack intelligence. My God, if we just used as much energy being stupid or if we used as much energy being intelligent or even semi-intelligent that we do being stupid. I can't speak. My feet are so cold. Excuse me, folks. If we just spent a little bit of time away from stupidity, applying ourselves to being intelligent and actually thinking about what we do before we do it, we could avoid a lot of problems. And we could create an absolute paradise, ladies and gentlemen. We could start to learn from the shamanic realm that we live in, this earth, and we can create kind of a shamanic science-based world where we incorporate the best parts of technology with the best parts of the shamanic kingdom that we live in. This is how we create evolution on earth, ladies and gentlemen, through merging proper science with shamanism, with real psychology, real magic. We don't merge the garbage science, the bought out science that they try to shove down your throat. We don't merge that with nature. If that happens, we create a dystopia. That's what we're currently living in right now, folks. They want to give you a one-sided version of science, and they want to use it to control you and to keep you complacent. Well, science can be bought out, ladies and gentlemen, like anything else. Money can buy a scientist. And a lot of the science, especially if you look back at a lot of the science on food that has been done, all of the studies on particular items of food, a lot of these companies, they invest in their own studies. They create their own studies. You can't, for instance, trust, well, I mean, imagine if a cigarette company created their own study and said that cigarette smoking was good for you. Would you actually believe that? Well, many companies do that, ladies and gentlemen. And they discard all of the studies that show that a particular item is unsafe. So a lot of you guys, again, you don't have a mind of your own and you just go, well, there's a study on that says it's okay. Well, if you do a little bit of research and a little, you do a little counter research, you'll find that more often than not, a lot of the stuff in the mainstream world that we think is good for us is actually quite bad for us. But you guys just follow the experts, you just go down the river, you just float, float, float. You never question where that fucking river is heading. And I'm here to tell you that in about 200 yards, there's a giant waterfall with a giant thing of fucking rocks on the bottom. And that you should maybe get a mind of your own, delete the Archon's influence from your mind, Get rid of your ego, which is the non-authentic you. Climb out of that river. Stop floating down it with the ignorance is bliss programming. Stop thinking. I mean, it's just insane. The problem with all this information, though, is that it requires people to wake up and confront some inconvenient truths. And that makes reality scary to many people because of the collective weakness. A lot of people don't want to realize and wake up and be in the spiritual war that we're living in. A lot of people don't want to wake up and realize that we're in hell. This world is ran by demonic forces, ladies and gentlemen, connected to a gnostic entity known as the Demiurge, or Yaldabaoth, or cosmic crater, as the Greeks would call this entity. It largely, strangely resembles Stephen King's It, because it comes after you when you're young. It programs you when you're young so that by the time you're older, you don't remember what happened. That's besides the point. We'll make a Demiurge decoded video, in the near future. But where was I going with that? A lot of people don't want to wake up, because when you wake up, you kind of have to take the sword off out of the sheath and sharpen it. You've kind of got to maybe go down in the basement and get that old suit of armor. Maybe do a few repairs to it, get those armor boots to fit on you. You got to kind of, take responsibility for your actions. When you wake up, you realize that we are living in a grand war, a spiritual war between good and evil and right and wrong. And the line in the sand, ladies and gentlemen, has never been clearer. Regardless of what you may think. This is one of the reasons why people think Kundalini is evil. It's because when Kundalini, or the Christ energy, moves through you and wakes you up, your brain and your mind gets christened to the point where you can actually see directly to the core of these issues, and you can see and realize that this world is ran by evil. Now, what happens when the Kundalini kisses your forehead, wakes you up, and you get to experience the nectar of God? When you can start to see properly based on the enlightenment that you experience, you can actually get your common sense back, and you realize that, okay, my responsibility as a son of the true living God, the true gnostic God, is to fight against this evil. This is how you create purpose in your life, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't come here, regardless of what you may think, we did not come here to just be on this pleasure circus, or in this pleasure circus where life is just about, oh man, let's go get a churro, or let's go get ice cream, or let's go do this, and let's just stimulate ourselves until we can't even think anymore. Stimulate, 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 and then stimulate some more until I can't think anymore, until my brain is mush again, just total mush. Until I have no common sense, until my brain is no longer mine, and I lose all sense of the divine, so that I can walk through life committing spiritual crime as I create distance from my soul, as I create distance from my soul, and I remove myself from the divine pole of God within me, the Shashumna, as I separate myself from the angels willingly, as I inoculate myself with nonsense, as I happily float down the river of Styx, as I get closer to my imminent demise through my actions, as I separate myself from my higher self willingly, as I tumble down the tunnel of ignorance while thinking everything's okay, while scoffing at truth and disregarding every ounce of intuition that comes into my fucking consciousness to try to wake me up. Excuse me, folks. I mean, Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world surrounded by these holy trees. This reality is a holy place, but you don't even have the balls anymore or the mind of your own enough to go touch a tree and to try to pull some energy out of it or communicate with it. You're inside on your iPhone. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We've been sold a bill of goods based on how we were educated when we were younger. It's starting to rain, damn it. We were educated and taught how to think. I don't want to get my camera all wet. Excuse me, folks. Let's try to find a spot where I can be a little bit sheltered. Maybe I'm probably going to have to cut this one off quick, ladies and gentlemen. This phone was like $800. But based on how you were raised, your assemblage point was repositioned. Your assemblage point was repositioned to such an alien position to where it was when you were younger, when you still had connection to the electromagnetic spectrum, when you could see spirits, etc., your ancestors. Your assemblage point has been locked into a new position, and you've forgotten where it used to be. And because of that, your entire world is now based on the current fixation of your assemblage point, which dictates the spin velocity of your electromagnetic field, also known as your aura. When your assemblage point is in a suboptimal state or position, in regards to your spiritual growth, you stay locked in the land of the bottom feeder, I like to call it. You get locked in an engagement, a psychosomatic engagement of ignorance, where you think that you're right all the time, and it's just insane. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go. The rain is only going to intensify at this point, and I don't want to lose my camera equipment because I'd love to be able to stay in tune with you. I love you all. Please consider donating to my channel. I really need your support. Times are tough. This channel is listener supported, so if you find my channel useful, if you've derived benefit, please consider clicking the first link in the description box and sending me some support via finances. I love you all. Peace be with you. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.